Hi there. My name is Rabansa Mukherjee from Rare Candy, and you're joining me right now in the most populated city in the world, Tokyo. Everybody remembers their first night in Tokyo. I don't care who you are. If you're coming from America, like I did, you're fresh off of a 14, 16, 18-hour flight, whatever the case is, and you land in Narita Airport, and then it's another 3-month journey from Narita to the city. I'm kidding, of course, but not really. But once you get here, it doesn't matter how tired you are. It doesn't matter what else is going on. The adrenaline immediately kicks in. It's like a straight shot to the veins, and it's just the overstimulation of it all. Knowing that you can go in any direction and you are going to get lost. And there's so many things to uncover. There's so many things to find that are going to mesmerize you and confuse you and bewilder you and enchant you. That's the magic of Tokyo. The city of Tokyo is named after Tokugawa Ieyasu, who is credited with unifying Japan and shifting the capital from Kyoto to Edo, now Tokyo, in 1869. In addition to being the political capital of Japan, it is also the financial and cultural capital as well. Tokyo is home to a staggering 37 million people. You can think of Tokyo as just one massive megacity, but in reality, it's a collection of several city-sized districts and neighborhoods. I'm just really excited to be here. In total, I'm going to be here for a month. I'm going to be visiting the Kanto area here. Then I'm going west to the Kansai region, which is home to Osaka and Kyoto. After that, I'm going further west to the island of Kyushu, after which I'm going to the northernmost part of Japan, Hokkaido. And finally, I'll be ending in Tokyo here my last few days. So join me on this journey and we'll figure out some of my burning questions together. So, why is Japan such a hotbed for innovation and creativity? Spoiler alert, I'm going to break the suspense for you. Are you ready? The answer is rules. Japan is the land of rules and rule breakers. The former is the reason why it's taken me so long to come here. The latter is the reason why it simply couldn't be denied any longer. Rules are good. Rules are the reason why this country is as clean and as safe as it is. Rules establish order. They guide behavior, shape culture, and promote equity within a society. Rules ensure that everybody has access to a canvas and a paintbrush. But rules can be oppressive. Rules set expectations and promote conformity. Don't you dare take that paintbrush and color outside the lines. Don't you dare do anything that breaks from the established norms. If you do, you'll be ostracized. Because if we let you get away with breaking the rules, what's to stop the next person? And the next person? And then before you know it, all these rules, all this order has collapsed, just like that. There's a codependency between rules and rule breakers. They can't exist without each other. All the people that we discuss in this piece had to fight tooth and nail to protect their ideas and dreams from the very same rules and expectations that shaped them in the first place. Laws are always written, but rules are written and unwritten. You have to understand that the origins of Japan's rules-based society and the strict adherence to those rules goes back centuries. They are so deeply embedded within the fabric and culture of this society that people don't even know that they are following these rules. They just do. They just exist. One of the biggest philosophical influences that have shaped these rules over the course of hundreds of years in Japanese society is the way of the warrior, known as Bushido, going back hundreds and hundreds of years from the time of the samurai to now. There are 7 core tenets that make up the philosophy of Bushido. We will be doing a deep dive on each of them, cross-referencing some of my favorite cultural touchpoints from Japan to articulate and understand each of them a little bit better. In the past 2 years alone, nearly 60 million foreign tourists have visited Japan. Many of them, I imagine, have stories not unlike my own. I'm 30 years old at the time of speaking, and every single day, a silent but violent war rages deep within me to keep my inner child alive, to keep my sense of hope and wonder and optimism intact in a world that is increasingly under threat from nihilism and cynicism and fear and hatred. The older I get, the more it seems like life is confronting me with these sort of existential crossroads where I have to decide whether to hold on to or let go of those childlike elements of my youth, to hold on to or let go of my innocence in a way, just to survive out here. Japan is, of course, home to so many of the stories and characters from our youth that shaped us and helped develop our sense of imagination and wonder. Many of us found refuge through escapism in those stories in times of stress or in times of trauma when we were kids. Think of this journey as a larger extension of that. I came here to better understand what is it about this island in the Far East that helps to foster so many of the most creative stories and storytellers? And what should we do about the past? Should we hold on or should we let go? I've been asking people that I've come across what pop culture reference from their childhood is their biggest source of nostalgia. For me, the answer is pretty simple. It's Pokemon, which started right here in Japan. And maybe it's an answer that shouldn't surprise you because Pokemon is the highest grossing media franchise of all time, and it's frankly not even close. Since its debut in 1996, the Pokemon franchise has grossed a total lifetime revenue of nearly $150 billion. To put that into context, second place is the Star Wars franchise, which has grossed about $80 billion since its debut, and that was nearly 50 years ago. In fact, the total lifetime revenue of the Pokemon franchise is roughly equivalent to Star Wars, Harry Potter, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe combined. Respect is a poor virtue if it is only actuated by the fear of offending good taste. Instead, respect should be the outward manifestation of a sympathetic regard for the feelings of others. It implies a due regard for the fitness of things, therefore, due respect to social positions. In its highest form, respect almost approaches love. The story of Pokemon can be traced all the way back to the 1970s in the town of Machida on the outskirts of western Tokyo. A young boy named Satoshi Tajiri was fascinated by collecting the various insects and little animals he found in the fields and forests surrounding his town. So much so that his friends in school even gave him the nickname Dr. Bug. However, as Satoshi got older and the town of Machida began to urbanize, his bug collecting hobby became harder and harder to pursue. So he found a new hobby in the form of arcade games. In the early 80s, Tajiri launched a self-published video game magazine called Game Freak, which reviewed new arcade releases and gave players tips and strategies on how to achieve high scores. One day, a man by the name of Ken Sugimori found a copy of Game Freak magazine in a store. He was so impressed by Satoshi's work that he took the effort of finding him and offering his services to the magazine as an illustrator. Over the next few years, this partnership between Satoshi's writing and knowledge of video games with Sugimori's illustrations helped Game Freak magazine become a successful publication, and the two men developed a deep friendship. The more they worked together and got to know each other, the more they realized they shared the same hidden but feverish dream, to create their own video game. So in 1987, the duo shut down Game Freak magazine and decided to embark on their goal together. By now, Satoshi's hometown of Machida had transformed dramatically from the way it was when he grew up. The fields and forests near his home had been replaced by malls and housing developments. He began to lament that children wouldn't be exposed to the same wonders of nature that he had the fortune to experience as a kid. This was the seed of the idea that eventually started it all. In 1990, after years of planning and financing, the new Game Freak was ready to start working on their first video game, Pocket Monsters, later shortened to Pokemon. It took 6 grueling, challenging years from that point to develop and release their game. Larger game studios turned them down. Satoshi and Sugimori eventually got a lifeline from Nintendo, but even they didn't fully understand the vision or viability of Pokemon. During those 6 years, Game Freak teetered on bankruptcy. They were unable to pay staff, and as a result, half their development team quit. Satoshi Tajiri sacrificed his own salary and survived on his father's support while sleeping and working from the company basement. Sugimori during this time was hard at work, creating and refining the character designs for over 150 different Pokemon. All these beloved characters that we know now came from the imagination of a single man. Pushed to the absolute brink, the team finally had a finished product. On February 27, 1996, Pokemon Red and Green versions were released in Japan. It was a cultural phenomenon from day one. A little more than a year later, the animated TV show was released. And a year after that, Pokemon Red and Blue versions were released in the US market. Respect was and remains an omnipresent theme across all things Pokemon. Humans don't own Pokemon, players don't control them. Instead, they work together, as friends and as partners. They succeed through bonds of trust, not through strength of force. During a battle, a defeated Pokemon doesn't die, they faint. This is because, in his own words, Satoshi Tajiri believed that young kids need to treat the concept of death and loss with more respect. The game mechanics track how players treat their Pokemon by quantifying friendship as a stat. The game encourages community and respect between players through things such as trading and link cables. There is no statistic or personal anecdote I could offer you that would articulate the enormous worldwide impact Pokemon's legacy has had than the following fact. When all of this started in the mid-90s, they were naming Pokemon after animals. Now, they're naming animals after Pokemon. In 2016, a team of researchers in the Chilean Andes discovered a new species of bee. They named the bee the Chili-Cola Charizard. The team that started all of this in Game Freak, the team that launched the Pokemon games in 1996, were under 10 people. Ken Sugimori and Satoshi Tajiri and Junichi Masuda, these people took an enormous risk. They shattered all existing perceptions of what a career path looks like in Japan. In the 80s and 90s, the career path for young people in Japan was quite linear. You excel in school, you attend university, you find a job working at a company, and in most cases, you stay at that company for decades. The average tenure for a single employment in Japan is 13 years, and that's today. It was even longer 20 years ago. It's just part of the culture here. You stay at a job, you try to get a little bit better at that job every single day. It's an idea known as Kaizen. You're not supposed to just one day decide to flip everything on its head and start your own venture. You're not supposed to take big risks like the team at Game Freak did. Quite simply, I don't know if I would be here if it wasn't for Pokemon. I don't know if I would be in Japan making this vlog, going on this journey, if it wasn't for my love of exploration, which was fostered by the Pokemon games. See, it wasn't the idea of controlling these or fighting with these fire-breathing dragons or these monsters or these characters. It was the simple notion of being dropped into a world as a kid and having the license to explore that world with nothing but you and your Pokemon as your tools to get by and get through that. The 4 regions that I'll be traveling to over the next month in Japan are based on the locations of the first 4 generations of Pokemon games. Generation 1, which is Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow, based on the Kanto region right here. Johto, which is the Generation 2 games, Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal, are based on the Kansai region. Generation 3, that's the Hoenn region. Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald is based off of the island of Kyushu. And finally, Generation 4, Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum are based on Hokkaido. That's the Sinnoh region. Meiyo is the Bushido virtue of honor. It teaches us that the warrior is meant to have a strong sense of personal and professional integrity. But what happens when those two things are at odds with one another? Japanese society places a heavy emphasis on restraint. There are both philosophical and practical reasons for this. In a philosophical sense, the act of restraint is a form of practicing discipline. It manifests itself in a myriad of ways across Japanese culture as a design aesthetic. Beauty and harmony can only be achieved by allowing for the natural elements of things to speak for themselves. In the West, we think of this as minimalism. The philosophy has roots in the belief systems of Buddhism and Shintoism, which we'll explore a little deeper later on. Over 30 years ago, a few men came together with the shared vision of challenging the established norms of restraint within the Japanese culinary arts. These men were deeply inspired by the world of samurai and martial arts. The idea was simple: to pit two masters of their craft against each other in a high-stakes, time duel centered around a key secret ingredient. As a result of their shared vision, they created a TV show called Ryori no Tetsujin, but you probably recognize it more from its English translation, Iron Chef. The concept was the brainchild of the show's producer, Kiyoshi Fukumoto, and the show's host, Takashi Kaga, better known as Chairman Kaga. Amongst all the great chefs around the world who participated on the show, there was one who stood tallest amongst them. Perhaps not in stature, but in terms of legacy. The original Iron Chef Japanese, and the Iron Chef of all Iron Chefs, Rokusaburo Michiba. Michiba's culinary education and training had very formal roots. He was trained in the art of kaiseki, traditional multi-course Japanese ceremonial meals. But by the time he arrived to Tokyo, Michiba wanted more. He quickly earned a reputation around the city as a maverick, incorporating ingredients and techniques in his restaurant not indigenous to Japan at all. He embodied the exact kind of bold, forward-thinking style that the show's creators had in mind. In the early 1990s, he was approached with the opportunity to represent Japanese cuisine as the designated Iron Chef Japanese. The show and all its chefs and challengers display the Bushido virtue of honor simply by showing up and willingly participating. Cooking, food in general, is a purely subjective medium. What we like and don't like is a byproduct of so many conscious and unconscious factors. Despite this, when the Iron Chefs and their challengers faced off, they willingly put their reputations and the reputations of their restaurants on the line. They put their very livelihoods at stake. What mattered was not winning or losing, but putting up a good fight and conducting oneself with honor. I had the opportunity last night to visit Rokusaburo Michiba's flagship restaurant, Rokusante, in the Tokyo district of Ginza last night. At the age of 94 years old, the one-time Iron Chef no longer has the energy or stamina to lead the kitchen, but his presence still looms large. The staff tell me that Michiba still visits from time to time to ensure everything is up to standard. It was a fantastic experience. Iron Chef Michiba participated in 38 battles across his time on the show, compiling a record of 32 wins, 5 losses, and 1 draw. His record stands as the highest winning percentage amongst all the Iron Chefs. In addition, Michiba also won the 1995 Iron Chef World Cup by defeating his fellow Iron Chefs in a knockout-style competition. His legacy is defined far beyond his achievements on the show, however, and more by the influence of his borderless approach and the impact he had on liberalizing Japanese cuisine and encouraging experimentation and progress. We'll be back in Tokyo in a few weeks, but for now, let's head out west to the region of Kansai, home to the ancient city of Kyoto, to learn a little bit more about Bushido and its roots within Japanese culture.